Hello aspirants, welcome to PW OnlyIAS. I'm here preaching the daily analysis of the Hindu from 5th of December 2024. Let's begin with today's analysis. This is a QR code where you can basically find the particular PDF along with the material that is required for your preparation. These are the topics that we have taken. Cash transfer schemes from the mains perspective and the other topics taken from the Hindu from the prelims perspectives. The Richter scale, the Safety Engineering Center, Ashtamudi Lake, Chief Commissioner for the Persons with Disabilities along with Proba 3 mission. So the first aspect from the mains topic is cash transfer schemes for the women in the new poll plank. Now this is very interesting topic. See, it mentions certain things. First, cash transfer schemes or the direct benefit transfer schemes through which money is directly transferred to the account of the beneficiaries through either as a means of certain policies or some subsidies that are transferred or in various ways. Certain incentives have to be given. Along with it, the word mentions women, and the third is new poll plank. So it basically links three things: women, cash transfers, and the poll plank. That means, why are women being seen as a major target with respect to those direct beneficiaries that are being announced or schemes that are being announced? Like you would be seeing that in various schemes, even in the Ujjwala scheme also, the beneficiary is basically the cylinders are also registered in the name of the women. Right? And similarly, with respect to within Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, the similar thing is seen. Also with respect to various other schemes also, when the governments announced during the time of, let us say political parties announced during the time of election that the beneficiaries will be receiving certain amount of money if they come to power. Let us say various political parties announced. So their general guarantee that is given is that they will be transferring to the accounts of the women. Why is it that women have become a central point with respect to these transfers that are taking place with respect to money in the accounts? And how is politics related to that? We have to understand these three things together. Now, this editorial talks about the linkage between them. How? Please understand. When India got independent, and after that we had the first election in 1952, at that particular time, you realize the participation of the women was not very high. They were not aware of the election process. Many did not participate also. But with time, as we see, the participation of the women in the electoral process is increased tremendously. Firstly, because they are more educated, they are literate, they know what their rights are. Along with it, we realize that reservation of the women at the local level, let us say panchayats and the municipalities also, that has reserved the seats for the women of like 33.3% seats are reserved. So that means automatically the participation of women increases. And when I talk about the women reservation bill that has been passed for the state legislatures and even the parliament, where seats are reserved for the women, we will be seeing that implementation will take place post the census data comes and the delimitation commission is formed. But you realize that in a way, the participation of the women through the voters also has increased. And second, as people who will be basically making decisions by being in the parliament or the state legislatures are also increased. So that means women are a major means through which even political parties can win or lose an election, because their participation increases, their vote value is equal to every other person. So more the number of women are participating in the election, what they feel and who they cast vote for will be deciding or playing an important role in the electoral process. That is why when we are talking about the cash transfers, we realize that women are being an important ingredient with respect to the political parties and the governments when they are announcing the various schemes, and the cash transfer will be taking it to the accounts of the women. Now, with respect to this, there are four major points. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 points are mentioned in this editorial. We'll be seeing this in brief because we will increase the gamut of this editorial to the direct benefit transfer and analyze that. So, what are the reasons why women are being as a center for the cash transfers that are taking place with respect to the politics that is involved? See, first, rise of women in political sphere. As I said, the participation of women has increased as voters, number of voters have increased. The people or the women who are contesting the elections have also increased. The reservation is there, so automatically the participation by default will increase. Women are more literate, more educated, more aware of their rights. That means what happens? That their participation in the electoral or the political sphere will increase. And that is why the political parties and the governments also try to focus on this newer set of people who are coming and going to vote. That means rise of women in the political sphere becomes important. Second, direct benefit transfers or the cash transfers basically removes the middleman. Why? Earlier, what used to happen during the during the old means where, let us say, money was transferred to, let us say, one government, to the local government, and then people used to collect cash from those organizations, what used to happen? There were a lot of leakages that were there, a lot of corruption that was there. If 100 rupees had to be transferred to a beneficiary, probably that person would be receiving rupees 10 because other things are gone in corruption. So in order to remove these middlemen, direct transfer takes place to the accounts of the beneficiaries. Now the major benefit over here is because those schemes are registered or linked to the account of the women. So the women are receiving the amount that was guaranteed to them. And that is why when the middleman is removed, the women themselves are benefiting through these middlemen removal and the removal of the corruption in these cash transfers or the direct benefit transfers that take place. Third, political commitment. Now political commitment is very important here. Political commitment becomes important is because this shows that the political parties are committed towards the development and welfare of the women. Now, this becomes important because we have already seen rise of women in the political sphere basically leads to them being a very important and integral part in the democratic structure where the women will be casting their vote and every vote counts because every vote has an equal value. Now, when the women have a perception that this political party might be working for their development and welfare, there's a greater probability of those political parties coming to power also. So this is a way of reflection of the political parties or the governments in power that we are committed to the welfare of the women. Next, welfare democracy. Please understand, though the government of India, if we see, has transitioned over the years as the governments of India have basically opened the economy from 1990 till now. And we realize that a lot of market opening has taken place through the liberalization and privatization. FDI percentages have increased to even 100% in various spheres. Even various spheres like space has also, we will be realizing that a lot of public participation is taking, private participation is taking place. What do you realize that in spite of this, one thing that remains very important in the democratic structure of India is socialism. It is a basic structure of the constitution as stated by the Honorable Supreme Court. So in socialism in India basically talks about welfare democracy. That means one, that the government is going to work for the welfare of each and every element or ingredient that is present in the India or a citizen of India, where women become a very important section of the vulnerable sections of the age composition or the composition of India if you talk about. So if you see the composition of the population, women are a vulnerable section and working for them is for their welfare is also an ingredient of the welfare democracy that basically shows the commitment of the government as well as the welfare of the women. So what happens? That is upholding the spirit of the constitution. Now over this also is seen by the women as a means of, let us say, politically luring for the parties to which they are going to vote for. These all dimensions basically lead to, in a way, influencing the women also to which party they should vote for. If they are towards the women might probably vote for them more. That is what the thing over here is. So this is what we see why women politics and direct benefit transfers or cash transfer are linked to each other. Now, other things we have to move ahead because let us increase the gamut. Cash transfer or the benefit transfers, what are the features? First is Aadhaar integration. You know, you all have an Aadhaar card, which is basically and your identity representation. It is not a proof of citizenship. No, it is your identity. Show of your identity, right? Now, your accounts are linked to the Aadhaar card, which is linked to the mobile number, right? That is why there is a concept in this feature, JAM. Jan Dhan account. Then you have Aadhaar. And you have your mobile number. These are also the key features of the direct benefit transfer. The first is your Aadhaar integration with your account number. This account number is basically again the Jan Dhan account. Please remember, Jan Dhan account during the time when the new government came to power, it basically focused on financial inclusion where the people who did not have accounts, zero balance accounts were opened for them in the various accounts. Even targets are given to the people that they should open. The banks are given targets in a way that financial inclusion will increase. Now, the people who had accounts, it is fine, but this was for those especially who did not have bank accounts. So that means it was a way of linking the Aadhaar card with the account that you have along with the mobile number that is being linked. so that when the transfers take place, there is no leakage there and it directly goes into the account of the beneficiary. So again, Jan-Dhan accounts. Next is targeted approach under the direct benefit scheme. Targeted approach means, please understand, if you have the account numbers, if you have the Aadhaar card number and the mobile number, that means you can very well identify the information regarding the person, because everybody now has an Aadhaar card in India. So very easy using the softwares of, let us say, artificial intelligence also. And these softwares basically help you very easy to study those metadata and data. And you can very well know who are the people who need to benefit or other targeted people who have to be transferred this money. So with that, what happens is it is easier to target and to target the beneficiaries there. Otherwise, what used to happen when earlier on when these information were not available, it used to work on estimation. That is why a lot of leakages were there. And that is why even when certain money was provided for X number of people and the population might have increased by, let us say, many times, then also many people would not be benefiting from those schemes. Exclusion used to happen. But today's time, because when you have Aadhaar, you again have to, when the children are born, they have their own Aadhaar. After 5 years, again have to get the mature, again have to get their Aadhaar card refreshed. And again, you will be realizing that the information is with the government, all those who are present in the country also. And that basically helps in the targeted beneficiary of the schemes who are going to benefit out of it. So this targeted approach. Now, next is monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation basically tells you, because census is basically held after every 10 years. Now, who the beneficiaries are going to be is this Aadhaar card information is a very important means through which you can update your policies and evaluate how the transfers are taking place, any leakage that is there or not, because you have a proof that the money is going and reaching the account of the beneficiary. That is the biggest proof. Otherwise, earlier what used to happen, various hierarchical structures used to be there. Central government passing it to somebody, then going to state government, then going to, let us say, some local level authority. By that time, when the money used to be collected by the beneficiary, most of it used to be, let us say, gone in the process of the corruption only. Now, directly into the account of the beneficiary. So, proper monitoring and evaluation is what is a major dimension that we see over here. Clear? Next, impact of the direct benefit transfer. So what are the impact of the positive things that we see with these transfers that are taking place? First, reduction in the administrative cost. See, reduction in the administrative cost related to the subsidy distribution, because it puts off the intermediaries and streamlines the process. So it automatically reduces, because it is now technology that is being used and the financial inclusion that is linked to the account number and the Aadhaar card. You directly transfer. You remove those extra intermediaries or the people who are involved in between. That is removed, so automatically the cost will decrease. Transportation cost, this cost, many costs are reduced. So that is why direct transfer helps in the reduction of the cost also. Next, targeting of the beneficiaries. We've already done that, because earlier what used to happen when you do not have the data, it is very difficult to tell who are the targets for the beneficiaries or these particular scheme. Now you have the information, it is very easy to comprehend and target and transfer the money. Third, encouragement of digital transaction. Automatically you realize that mobile number, Aadhaar card and the bank account, these are linked. So what will that do? Earlier people would be using cash. We're not saying cash is bad, but what happens, it tends to aggravate the corruption and the leakages that are there. Because you will be seeing that many times when earlier on, when the cash used to be a major means of transaction, then when even you had to collect your incentives or the benefits, you used to go to the government offices, they might ask for commission in order to release certain incentives. Now that thing basically gets removed completely, because we realized over here that it is directly transferred via digital transaction, and that basically helps in your promotion of the digital transactions that take place. Now that is very, 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 very important over here. Next. So the next is the improvement in governance. Now when we talk about improvement in governance, please understand, we very often talk about the concept of e-governance, right? E-governance or smart governance. Now, you realize something, that when we're talking about government, if the government is not unnecessarily intervening in the business activities, you realize that means government is a facilitator rather than a regulator. All these things do come. So we realize that use of technology becomes very, very important over here. That is why improvement in governance, because when you have a direct transfer taking place to the accounts, whether it is women or for in general also, you'll be realizing that transparency is there, responsibility is there. Along with it, accountability is there because you know that the money is being transferred to that account and you have the data for that. Earlier, this was not available. That is what used to create a problem. Now, this discourages corruption also and malpractices that are there. So this basically improves the service delivery mechanism through which the government is working. That is improvement in governance. Now, fifth, facilitation of the policy reforms. Now, you'll be realizing the records generated through DBT implemented can offer Treasury or how to evaluate or what welfare needs to take place. Now, let us assume that if we know that this is the amount of, this is the number of accounts that are there for which money has to be transferred. Along with it, we know what is the condition or status of the people in India. Now, this will basically help us as a major means through which data can be utilized for further policy making. Because as I already told you, census data is basically you get after every 10 years. Now, that is considered quasi-static for 10 years. That means static for 10 years, though we know it is changing. That is known as quasi-static for 10 years. But these newer data that come up basically helps us to revamp our policies also. So that is why, again, a very important dimension. Next is sixth, socio-monetary development. It basically helps in poverty reduction, improvement of standard of living. Why? Because if 100 rupees had to be transferred to the account of the beneficiary, if 10 rupees was going because of the corruption, and 90 was in just fly away or flies because of the corruption activities, then it will not help the beneficiary even to benefit out of it. That means when we remove the corruption, it basically helps in the amount that is transferred is actually being received by the person. That basically also helps us in poverty elevation and socio-cultural and economic development of those communities. That is why important aspect. Next, what are the challenges of DBT? We realize Aadhaar authentication issues. Where there have been cases where duplicate Aadhaars have been there, there have been wrong Aadhaar statistics have been there. Now that basically leads to a lot of multiplicity of data and then creates issues with respect to policy planning. One. Second, lack of awareness. Now this can bring about low enrollment rates, resistant to digital transactions and problems in gaining access to the schemes. Now, many people might don't want to indulge in digital transaction. They're afraid of that because of, let us say, some hacking might be done with respect to their phones. That is quite possible that they may leave in. What happens is that lack of awareness, lack of enrollment with respect to, let us say, those UPIs. So this basically leads to, again, the fulfillment of the schemes takes a backseat over there. Because we need to see that behavioral change is also a very important ingredient if you want these schemes to be benefited. Third, infrastructural constraints. Various places do not have inadequate banking infrastructure, in particular the remote areas, limited access to banking facilities, net connectivity might be very poor. So the computer systems that are there, they are antiquated old time, they're not working properly. So then you don't believe that those things can work well on those places. So that is what one of the major issues. Then fourth, last mile delivery challenges. When we talk about last mile delivery, that every place has it, we have logistical challenges. You go to Leh Ladakh region, if you go to Arunachal Pradesh regions, those terrain become very difficult for having these facilities being there. Again, you will be having net issues also there. So logistical delivery and the aspect of delays, privileges and logistical challenges, that creates a lot of problem that every nook and corner of the country has this facility. No, right now. That is what the problem rise. Next is challenges again. Fourth, fifth, data security and privacy issues. We realize that thousands of crores of losses have been incurred the government of India because of the cybersecurity issues. Now, when we talk about overdependence on technology, we realize that there's a possibility of hacks taking place, data leak taking place. We see in the case of the AIMS website being hacked and data being made public. So that is again a problematic issue over here. Similarly, privacy concerns do arise in this case. So these were the issues that we realized. Now let us go into the prelims topics. 5.3 magnitude earthquake joins Telangana's Mulugu. Topic number 2. When we talk about here, it is important to understand Richter scale. Now Richter scale basically is developed. Richter basically developed the Richter magnitude scale. That means it talks about the magnitude of the earthquake that is there. That means measures the amount of energy that is released during an earthquake. Now this scale is basically divided into various categories, and let us see that. This is the magnitude, this is the description, this is the average earthquake impact and the frequency. If a magnitude is 1.0 to 1.9, it is micro. Micro earthquakes are not even felt. They're just recorded by the seismographs, and we do not feel it also. 2.0 to 2.9, these are slightly felt by some people, but no damages happen. 3.0 to 3.9, again, often felt by people, but very rarely cause any damage. Shaking of the indoor objects can basically take place. So these are basically telling you about the magnitude and the description along with the effect that it creates. If you go ahead, 4.0 to 4.9, now this is a noticeable shaking of the indoor objects. People feel that some earthquake has taken place, slightly felt outside in the open ground also. Generally causes none to very minimal damage. Some objects may fall off the shelves. This is again perceived. 5.9, 5 to 5.9. Now this causes damages of varying severity, particularly in the poorly constructed areas. Almost none or slight damage to the other buildings and felt by everyone because it is perceptible. Next, 6 to 6.9. This is strong. Damage to moderate number of well-built structures also takes place because this is again a high magnitude earthquake. Earthquake resistant structures survive the damage, but others might be damaged. Poorly designed structures receive moderate to severe damage, felt in wider areas up to hundreds of kilometers from the epicenter, and strong to violent shaking of the structural areas might be perceived or felt. Now, after that, 7.0 to 7.9, these are very major, cause damage to most of the buildings. Some to partially or completely collapse of the buildings might take place. Well-designed structures are likely to receive damage, right? Felt across great distances up to 250 kilometers from the epicenter of the earthquake. Then 8.0 to 8.9, major damage to the building structures likely to be destroyed, will cause moderate to heavy damage to even best of the design buildings, damaging to large areas and field in the large regions from the epicenter. It is basically very destructive in nature. Then 9.0 to greater, all or nearly total destruction or collapse of the building will take place. Even those who are earthquake resistant might not be able to resist them or basically survive. Wide scale damage, wide scale casualties will take place. And this is again 9.02 and greater. This is what the Richter scale is about. Next. Topic 3, Hyderabad to get India's first Google Safety Engineering Center. Please remember, this can be asked in your paper because this is India's first, but not the world's first. See, the Google's, when we talk about Google's Safety Engineering Center, Google's Safety Engineering Center in Hyderabad will be Google's second in Asia Pacific after Tokyo and fifth in the world along with Dublin, Munich and Malaga. That means it is fifth in the world and second in Asia Pacific and first in India, right? Now, what is it going to do? 𝐑𝐄𝐂𝐃 is a specialized international cybersecurity hub that plays a vital role in developing advanced security and online safety products in context of India. The center will focus on research, AI-driven security solutions, creating a collaborative platform for leading experts and researchers. Now, you realize that you're well aware that cybersecurity is a major problem or the challenge with respect to the challenges we see on the online platform. We realize that cybersecurity is very, very core ingredient. That is the future, I guess, in with respect to the computer science and information technology sector. So because we have a large population in India and people are shifting towards adopting that technology also, the greater possibility of a lot of frauds taking place, cybersecurity scams taking place. That is why Google has of the view that having this center in India becomes very, very important. Now, over here we'll be seeing that advanced security measures using AI, machine learning would be basically there. Best of the best engineers would be there, will be working on them to how to counter these scams or the cybersecurity frauds that might be taking place. So this is a research center for that. Now, 𝐑𝐄𝐂𝐃 is aimed at fostering skill development, boosting employment, and enhancing cybersecurity capabilities in the country. Google has the largest employee base in Hyderabad and building its largest office in the world in the city outside of its headquarters. So that by default, you know that India is a major consumer, and that is why it is focusing on India also. But overall, we realize cybersecurity is a major concern. It will lead to increase in employment also. The discipline of cybersecurity within the computer engineering dimension becomes very important of the future. Next. Panel seeks timely action to curb illegal discharge waste into Ashtamudi Lake. Now, Ashtamudi Lake is basically a very important lake that is present in Kerala. This is the lake over here in Kerala. Now, a lot of waste is being discharged over here. So, there are reports with respect to resolving that issue. But for us, it is important to realize what Ashtamudi Lake is. It is a Ramsar wetland located in the Kollam district of Kerala. It is known as Ashtamudi, that means 8 braids in Malayalam, which can be explained by the palm-shaped topography with multiple branches. So it is multiple branches are going on, which is reflecting like the 8 branches. That is why Asht means 8, Mudi means in a way of branches of the shape of the lake is such, like this, see. Like a braid-like structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these braids are there. So these are almost 8 in number. That is why it is known as Ashtamudis, right? So 8 arms or channels. That is why it is known as Ashtamudi. It is the second largest lake in Kerala after we realize that, which is found on its way to its sea through the Nindakra estuary. Kalada River is a major source of water for the Ashtamudi Lake. Now this becomes important. Historical significance is that it dates back to the 14th century when the lake surroundings were important port means for connecting the city of Quillan to the rest of the world. That means it was a means of connection through which trade used to take place in Kerala, because we know that Kerala has had a history of traders with even the Arab world. So it was one of the centers through which the trade used to take place. Historical records of Moroccan explainer Ibn Battuta highlights the Quillan city in the banks of Ashtamudi Lake. Now this becomes very important from a historical perspective also. Next, if we move ahead, Chief Commissioner of PwD. Now this is person with disabilities post vacant for 5 years. Now this is a point of concern because this post vacant, that means that the head of the particular department or this department is not present there. Now let us understand what is PwD. What it is. Section 74 of the Rights of Person with Disabilities Act 2016 provides for the appointment of Chief Commissioner of Persons with Disabilities, right? Controlling authorities Department of Empowerment for Persons with Disabilities under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Mandate. The office has been mandated to take steps to safeguard the persons with disabilities and to fulfillment of the provisions that are made in the Act of 2016. Composition: 1 Chief Commissioner and 2 Commissioners to assist the Commissioner at the center. Some important functions: identify, suo motu, otherwise the provisions of any law or policy, programs or procedure which are inconsistent with the Act of 2016. Recommend the necessary corrective measures to work towards assuring the dignity and the fulfillment of the Act of 2016, and recommend any measure that is required with respect to any deprivation that has taken place with respect to the persons with disabilities is also an important function. Now, certain important orders: equitable access to offices in Divyangs. This was the order given by the Chief Commissioner of Persons with Disabilities, that the Divyangs should be given, let us say, that the government offices should be such that adequate facilities are provided to them, and offices can be such, they can be in the ground floor for the Divyangs so that they don't have to go to the upper floors if the infrastructure is not provided them in the form of lifts. Next, Air India, air travel access. The Court of the Chief Commissioner Persons also said that all airlines are responsible for implementing the provisions of Right of Person with Disabilities Act 2016, where you say that wheelchairs are provided, the airlines are bound to take care of the person with disabilities with respect to their care, and they are the ones who are basically taken first to the airlines so that they are comfortable enough and adequate provisions of what the Act of 2016 mandates is basically fulfilled. If we move ahead, ISRO Proba 3 launched for today. Now please understand what it is. It is a European Space Agency's first mission dedicated to the precision formation flying. Now please understand, we will be asking what is precision formation flying. In a simple words, please remember that there are 2 satellites which are going, and way they are coordinating with each other is such that requires a lot of precision. That is why it is being called as precision formation flying. Now all this is mentioned over here is fine, but the core topic is that it is a European space mission in which the one satellite is responsible for taking images of, let us say, the coronal emissions that the sun in sun that takes place, or study of the sun, And the other hand, there is another satellite that is there, which is basically masking it or creating an eclipse over it so that it can take proper photographs. So please understand, to understand this, please understand there are two satellites. The name is coronagraph spacecraft. Now this is one which is role is to observe the sun's corona or the outermost layer of the sun. Now it has sophisticated instruments that is going to take images of the corona and the coronal mass injections that basically, or the solar eruptions that take place. Now you realize that when the images are being taken, because the sun is going to be there, the light is going to be such a degree that proper images cannot be taken. That is why in order to, for this satellite to take proper images, another satellite is there to mask it or cover it in a way to create an eclipse over this particular satellite, which is the coronagraph satellite. The one that is masking the coronagraph satellite is the occulter spacecraft satellite. This what will it do? It will create an artificial eclipse blocking the sun bright disk to enable detailed observation on the faint corona. Now see, these, first of all, this mission is focused on studying the sun, the outermost layer, how those ejections, coronal mass injection and the plasma eruptions that take place from the sun, that is being studied over here. Now, proper photography basically helps us in proper analysis. So these two satellites are being launched. Now, these are why they're called precision flying, because they're going to be in such a way that the precision is there with respect to their movement. Now, supposingly the left one is the coronagraph spacecraft, which is basically a satellite. Now, this is a coronagraph satellite. This is the occulter. Now, coronagraph is responsible for taking the photographs, right? It's taking the photographs. Now, because direct sunlight would be coming, so it might not be able to take proper satellite or photographs. So this occulter is basically in front of it that will create a image, or let us say an eclipse, so that shadow is there in front of the camera of the coronagraph satellite, so that this coronagraph can take proper images of the sun. This is why the way they are moving, it is a very high precision. That is why it is precision flying. This is because this is the role of PROBA 3 to study the sun. When we move ahead, these are the multiple choice questions. Question 1, options, solution. Question 2, answer. Question 3, options, answer. Question 4, answer. Question 5, options, answer. This was the analysis of the Hindu from this side. Hopefully you enjoyed it, liked it. We'll be meeting tomorrow and continuing the lecture. Take care and Jai Hind.